I didn't take one. Where are they? I just got our beach
I
balls.
think some people took them to give to kids.
It's ready now, so you're welcome to go for it.
Sam Hetty, Utility Director for Lake Worth Beach. Good evening. Before we get started, I do have a couple of show and tell items to get started with. So if you would give me 1 second.
Sure.
Thanks, Direction. Talk about stormwater. So these actually go on all of our storm.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's seen that light around. See, you
Yeah.
can put it at your house.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Make a
Poster.
Yeah.
My wife saw one today when we were walking. She said, I don't think so.
How do you do them now? They seem pretty straight out. One for you.
That's very cool.
We talk about meters a lot here, right? So everybody can have an understanding of what a water meter looks like and how it's connected. Also brought.
Oh, he's never gonna give it back?
Oh, no. There's gonna be a little windmill in top. It's.
Here's the meter, the Badger meter, it's 5 each meter. So this goes on the house, outside your house, on 99% of all residents here within Lake Worth Beach. This is the radio that we talk about all the time. It actually sends signals to the electric meter. So we can understand what's happening with the meter. We can actually see if we have a leak at the house or whatever else is going on, stuff like that.
Excuse me, Director, can you say that one more time on the mic for those people
Right.
listening at home so they can?
Sorry. This is this is the actual radio that actually sends a signal to the electric meter, so we can see whether the house has a leak on it or something that's going on there. So it gives us a little analytical data that we can pull and see what's happening at the house before, we send a technician out there of some sort and waste time and money for something that could be something as simple as, a slow meter, or maybe there's nobody home and they've had a lot of usage there. So it gives us data to follow up on.
Is that also how they read our meters for billing?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. We talk about lining. Pipelining all the time. So this is how it begins. It begins with a sleeve just like this, but it's long. It's however long the run is. Sorry.
You can pull it out.
Sorry. Sorry. You don't want to take over the. Here. This is how it gets installed in the pipe. So one guy's on one end, the other guy's on the other end. Simplistically, they pull it through. Once it's pulled through, they put hot water in it. That hot water creates an exothermic reaction with the epoxy that's in here, and it expands just like this.
Oh, my gosh.
So it fills the annular space of the pipe, hardens up within a couple of hours. And then by the end of the day, you're flowing sewer, you're flowing stormwater, you're flowing whatever you need to flow through the pipe. So I just want to give everybody kind of
Thank you. That's very helpful.
a sense of what we do. And it's not sexy work, but it's necessary work. And so that's
It's
why we-
anti-sexy if the sewer doesn't work.
Yeah, it could be, yes. But I thought this was a very interesting.
The pipes are usually not that nice of a condition.
Right.
That, right, yeah.
Now, what
So-
happens if you've got a pipe that's somehow collapsed a little bit?
This will actually go in there and the pressure of the water will actually bulge out. It will fill those voids, or if you have a spot that's cracked, or if you have joints that are leaking,
Yeah.
this will actually seal that up completely, and you won't have any sewage leaking out of the joints or any of that.
No, that has that line going under, under the
Yes.
concrete slab.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great idea. And we've had to sleeve part of it.
We've probably done just like this.
Like yeah.
It could have been done just like this, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting. In situ Farm has been doing a lot of the lining here recently. They've lined almost 35,000 feet just in the last couple of months. It's very quick. It's not very evasive, so it doesn't disrupt residents much. They go down the alleyways that we have here and take care of it there in the alleyways. They cut out all the laterals that come from the house. So
Oh,
And that was gonna be my question. Great. Now you got this long steel pipe. How do you You come in through the lateral.
They actually have a little robot that goes in there that they can see with the camera, and they come up to the laterals. They know where the lateral is per feet wise. They go in there and they'll cut it out and they'll form it into the lateral.
And I've heard that a lot of our employees, after doing it for a while, operating the robot, doing this sort of stuff, they go down to Jackson Memorial, do heart surgery.
They could. They possibly could. We do actually have a couple of TV trucks that we actually go in there and we look at all so it's very interesting work.
The technology, pretty cool.
It's come a long ways. It beats sending little Jimmy down there and seeing what's going on. So
His skinniest guy.
thank goodness we don't do that anymore. So anyways, I did want to prepare a little presentation for us tonight, kind of give you an overview of the utility, some of the direction that myself and Vaughn have spoke about and how we want to take the utility going forward. The first couple of slides is really just data entry points. I thought it was interesting for everybody on the dais that maybe you knew, maybe you didn't know, what we do and some of the performance matrix that we look at. So we offer comprehensive water and wastewater and stormwater management services to our residents, to the businesses and our visitors here. That's very important to us to make sure that when visitors come to town, when anybody comes to town, that they don't see craziness happening in the streets. They don't see sewer overflowing. They don't see water leaks everywhere. They don't see things happening that shouldn't be happening within our city. We have over 50, we serve a population of almost 51,000. Not only do we serve Lake Worth Beach, but we do serve unincorporated Palm Beach County and some other municipalities that are close to us. Our service area covers 9.6 square miles, and the utility has 26,556 active water and sewer accounts. So that's pretty impressive for a city our size. So
Is that commercial? Is that commercial as well as residential?
that's correct. Yes, ma'am. Our water supply system is one of the best there is. You got an RO system here. You don't get any better than the RO system that we have. We actually do blended water at the water plant. We lime softening on one side of the plant, RO on the other side of the plant, and the Clearwell they mix. Gives you a perfect blend of water, perfect blend of pH, really no taste, no odor issues. It's exactly what you're looking for whenever you're making water.
Direct delivery for those listening, RO is?
RO, reverse osmosis. Thank you. Raw water supply, we have 3 Floridan wells. Hopefully within the next couple of years, we'll get a 4th one. We have 14 superficial wells, and we have 5 miles of raw water mains. And I thought it was interesting. I put a little diagram up there for everybody to kind of see where the aquifers are that we talk about all the time. We talk about the Floridan aquifer. We talk about the superficial aquifer and where they are in comparison to one another. Superficial aquifer is very close, within 60 to 100 feet below sea levels, where that normally sits. The Floridan aquifer is normally around anywhere between 2,000 and 4,000 feet. And our wells our Floridan wells sit around 3,300, and our Floridans are around 150. So very good water quality here. We're on a sand ridge, if you would. No better filtration than sand filtration. That's what they used in ancient Greece times. So
How is our aquifer doing? I thought I saw a news story come through about just our groundwater as a country in general.
our groundwater is doing fine because we
So
have.
here we're good.
Yes, because we're so close to the water, the ocean, and through the ocean and through the time, the water comes through the sand and the filters and everything. So it keeps our aquifer here very full.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have no issues with the Floridan.
Can you say those depths again? The Floridian.
The Floridian, yeah.
3,500.
yeah, 3,500. The
And the surface.
superficial is anywhere between 50 to 100, 150 feet, depending on what zone you could get into, and on the ridge here that we're in.
The 14 are all, is that monitoring plus extractor, or is that all?
All extraction. Yep. The water treatment plant is designed for 17.5 million max. The lime softening is 12.9 million gallons of water a day. The reverse osmosis is 4.5 million gallons a day. We do 2.15 billion gallons a year. And I thought I'd put up a quick little thing up there. It's 3,350 Olympic size swimming pools a year is what we do. If you were to put those Olympic swimming pools end to end, it's 103 miles.
Really?
So yes. So conceptually looking at it, that's a lot of water. A lot of water. But
And we're currently doing, say, call it 5 MGD for the RO.
Sorry, Vice Mayor, can you turn on your mic, please?
It is, I just gotta speak into it, which I'll try to do too. Where it's say roughly 5 MGD currently on the RO, round numbers, but we could go to 17, so we could.
it's a
by
combined
factor
total.
three.
Combined total with the Lime and the RO, it's 17.5. So
So
we,
what's our expansion, not current, because we'd have to put in more trains, or
Yeah.
whatever they call them, but we could go to quite a bit bigger.
yes, that's correct. Each train produces 1.5 million gallons a day, but you get a reject. We actually, our reject about 20% of what we actually make. So there's a reject portion that goes down into the rejection, the inject well. And then the rest of it is what we call permeate is the actual water. So there's a loss there of about 20%. And all that is mostly your sand, your salt that's being extracted through the RO process, it's being sent downhole. Our distribution system, we have roughly 180 miles of portable water mains in the ground. We have 2 elevated and 3 ground storage tanks, which we talked about a little bit today at the ribbon cutting ceremony. Vice Mayor McBoy, we were sorry you weren't there. You missed a very interesting treat for us. So
I saw it, I got there. but
Yeah.
it was- Yeah, sorry, I thought.
we have 2 booster stations and we have 1,200 fire hydrants. So it's a fairly decent sized utility once you start putting the numbers together. This is a wastewater collection system. This is work that has gone on in your system.
Is that like worth that picture?
This is in Lake Worth. Yes, ma'am.
Where?
It's over by the master pump station.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's like an architectural.
Not just us, but.
Right.
Lantana, all the other subregions except for Palm Springs. So the treatment and disposal is at the ECR. Once it finally gets out of here and goes down the 15 miles of pipeline, it finally hits the ECR, the East Central Regional Wastewater Facility that I'm your board member that sits on that for the city of Lake Worth Beach. And there's 4 other entities that are on that board. And that's where this goes and gets processed.
And where is that?
That is off of Haverhill, between Haverhill and the Turnpike, off Easley Lane. Yeah.
I just want to point
Oh.
out something on that slide. That's by, I know it's by the master pump station. I think it's on the street, right? So
Yeah.
that's a sewer and a concrete pipe is storm water.
Yes.
And how
And it's,
close they are.
yeah.
Hence the issue we
Deflection.
talked about.
Normally what would end up happening if you didn't have the deflection, that would come right straight out of there and tie into whatever it's tied into, but you got to deflect it with 45s and so on. It's there again, it's not sexy work at all. Very, especially in Florida, very hot, very humid. You got all the bugs and gnats and all the things you can think of in that hole with you while you're trying to do work. And you got some guy like me, used to be, standing up on the hole saying, get it done, get it done, get it done. So those days are way behind me now.
Can't have a leak in that place.
Yeah. The little more of the wastewater collection system, we have 124 miles of sewer mains, 20 square miles of sub-regional service area, 3,300 manholes to maintain, and 33 lift stations. Which is pretty significant. A city like West Palm Beach has 144. So, but they have 150,000 people that live there as well. So. Stormwater, everybody's interested in stormwater. Stormwater is actually one of my pet peeves. I love stormwater. I started working for the South Florida Water Management District. They got me involved in stormwater. I really like and understand stormwater. So taking near and dear. This is we manage the drainage system. We mitigate flood risk. We protect water quality. We have some baffle boxes. We have 6 baffle boxes that the stormwater goes into before it actually goes out into the intercoastal waterway. That helps clean up any nutrients, any trash, anything that we don't want floating out there. So
What are those cleaned out?
as often as they need to be. And I don't mean that as a, but it really depends on how bad trash cleanup. Our crew goes by there once a month to actually look and see, make sure that they're clean and make sure there's no obstructions up or downstream. So
So we keep a pretty steady eye on it.
yes, ma'am. Yeah. And we planning for future resilience. And this is a little snippet there on the side of some of the work that we have going on and some of the grants that we've looked at and some of the other things that we have happening within the city that has to do with stormwater. So I thought that was interesting to put that up there to kind of give everybody an idea that we're trying to be as proactive as we can. So
And we have a stormwater issue on the agenda tonight.
I think we have a few. Yes.
Great.
And those baffle boxes, they're primarily pulling out particle stuff, big stuff.
Yes.
They're not active, chemically active. They're not pulling nutrients. They're not pulling heavy metals, other than that they stick to stuff to some degree.
I haven't studied all of them, but there is a product called Bold Gold that they put in these baffle boxes that extracts your phosphorus and your nitrogen before it actually goes out. So I don't know if any of our 6 have that in there, but
But if there's gold in there, it don't work.
Bold Gold. It's an interesting product. In our stormwater system, we have 2,750 drainage structures, 22 miles of drainage pipe, which is about 115,000 linear feet of pipe. 6 water quality baffle boxes, 12 miles of grass swell. That was interesting to me. I didn't realize we had that many grass swells. Yeah. 53 stormwater outfalls. That's another thing that interested me. I didn't think we were that big, but we have 53 stormwater outfalls and 7 stormwater ponds. So any of you care to go fishing with me later on, we can figure out where the best fishing hole is.
So
So
the 53 stormwater outfalls, so is that 53 that go directly into the, that
Direct-
face the intercoastal?
yes, ma'am. Yep. Didn't realize that was that many. Yeah, I didn't either. So I learned quite a bit. This is kind of my theory and philosophy of how we want to look at this utility and how Vaughn and I feel like we want to operate this utility. So commitment to sustainability is one of our driving forces here. We want to sustain a top priority is every aspect to our operations. Our initiatives include programs for water conservation, energy efficient infrastructure, and the use of renewable resources whenever possible. By adopting a sustainable practice, we can minimize environmental impact, promote a healthier, greener community. I think that's what we all want. That's all what we all strive for. I've been here a couple months now. A lot of the conversations that I've heard from the dais is just exactly these kind of conversations, and we'll do our best to try to meet those goals as we move forward. Our water management, the strategies to ensure safe and reliable water supply. We employ advanced treatment technology to deliver clean potable water, the RO system, as we said. There'll be other treatment strategies that come out as years, technology evolves and we go forward. Regular maintenance and monitoring to ensure that the integrity of our water distribution is sound and maintenance on the distribution system, make sure that it's reliable. We don't have a lot of water loss due to leaks or breaks and that kind of thing. Our wastewater management. Our wastewater management system prioritizes an effective treatment and collection system and disposal. If you notice there, the picture here is the new biosolids facility that you guys helped pay for at the ECR facility. It's a $113 million project that was out there. What they'll do is they take sewage, they heat the sewage up, they burn off all of the organics and the other things. They use that methane gas as the heat process, as the heat provider. They put it in heaters and they use the methane gas and they heat it up. And then what ends up happening through the whole process is they actually make sludge out of it. And then they take that sludge and we sell it to the pelletizing company that's up the road. It becomes fertilizer that you guys,
Malorganite?
organic fertilizer that you guys can actually buy at Home Depot.
Is that Malorganite?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is very forward thinking, even though it costs a lot of money and me personally think, hey, these guys need to be on top of things, and they are. The staff there is doing an outstanding, great job. But me as your spokesperson, I will make sure that they're spending money wisely. So. Stormwater management, our stormwater management initiatives aim to mitigate flood risk and protect the water quality. We maintain a network of storm drains, detention ponds, and other drainage facilities to manage excess water during storms. So we talked about the ponds, we talked about the swells. These are all things that help clean up the water quality before it actually gets into the intercoastal waterway. Additionally, we minimize pollutants by reaching our water bodies by these kind of programs, that we keep a thoughtful eye on this and make sure that if there's any other location we could put these baffle boxes in, or have a grass swell or any of that type of best management practices, we want to do that. We invest in the infrastructure upgrades. We invest in upgrading our infrastructure to enhance efficiency, reliability, and minimize disruptions to the community. Number one goal on everybody's list that works in the utility is that right there. We don't want people. We want people to not know we even exist. We want them to, when they turn on the faucet, they have clean, reliable water. When they go to the restroom and flush the commode, it goes away from their house, and they don't need to know what happens to it after that. That's what I strive for. Nobody's calling me. Nobody's calling you saying I flushed and it went back into the house. That's a no. This includes pipeline rehabilitation, some of the items that I showed you, treatment plant modernization that we're looking at, optimize the system performance and reduce operational costs. Cost is what I preach all the time. Let's make sure we're covering our costs, make sure that we're not overspending. Just because we're a government agency doesn't mean that we need to overspend. Make sure we're getting 3 quotes, make sure we're cost verifying whatever is given to us. A lot of people want to think that we're big, fat, dumb, and lazy. We're not fat, dumb, and lazy. We're very educated. So don't try to pull the wool over our eyes. That's that will get you thrown out quicker than anything. Community engagement. I've yet to be able to engage in community involvement here. Sometimes what I like to do, and I know whenever you have block captains, you have commissioners, you guys have your meetings. I would like to be able to come to those meetings and at least be there as a fly on the wall. Anybody has any questions on water treatment, wastewater, stormwater, I'd like to be able to talk to them, because educating the public educates everybody else. And then when we have issues up here, the phone calls stop. People realize and recognize what we're doing, trying to do the right thing. We're not spending their money just willy-nilly, laissez-faire. I want to make sure that we educate the residents so they all understand what we're doing here. Future initiatives, constantly improving, constant improvement. We want to do that, constantly improve what we do. We want to look at innovation. We want to look at innovating processes. We send staff to some of these conferences, and at these conferences, they learn about innovative new technology, things that could actually be useful, to come bring it back, educate everybody so we can educate ourselves. Future plans include exploring lower energy cost options, integrating AI for meter reading and telemetry. Everybody's always talk about AI. It's one of those phenomena that we're still learning. But with AI, we can actually, it has predictive indicators in it. It could actually tell us in the future how much water we're going to need. It could actually run the facility. It can predict, hey, by algorithms, what did we do this time last year? What is the weather doing? What is it? It's really interesting technology that's coming out. We'll be involved in that. We aim to provide innovative solutions for the community's benefit. That's really what it boils down to, is the community's benefit. So that's what we strive to do. And in conclusion, we are dedicated to providing a sustainable, efficient, high-quality service to Lake Worth Beach for water, wastewater, and stormwater. Let's work together to create a strong and lasting utility for our community and future generations. But I have one other slide. I have let's look at the numbers. So just in the last 2 years, when I say 2 years from 2022 to date, these are some of the work orders that come through Judy Love's organization, wastewater guys, the collection guys, the distribution guys. That's a lot of work right there. If you look at just the work orders completed, 7,700 work orders were completed. Meters changed out. 1,316 meters of these little guys right here have been changed out. 10 miles of sewer main televised. That means that guy that we were talking about with that TV has televised 10 miles of sewer line and generates a report. When we look at the report, gives us ideas and gives us that intelligence to, well, hey, what do we need to do here? Is something going on? What's happening? 45 miles of sewer main cleaned. That's a lot. That's a lot of sewer main to be cleaned. And if you haven't witnessed and been involved in sewer main cleaning, which I would love to get you guys involved in one day. Yeah.
Okay.
We do a ride along like the police officers. Yeah. It's very interesting. It's very, yeah, you look like a space woman when you're there. Very interesting though, how we do that and how that happens. It's very, very interesting. Sewer main degreased, and we're talking about these grease interceptors. So 18 miles. So what ends up happening is a lot of these grease interceptors, they overflow, that grease flows into your sewer line, and that's what ends up happening. It lines the lining of the sewer line, and then it has to be, it hardens up, and it's just like the lard off your grandmother's baking skillet. You know, you pour it in there, and after a while it hardens up, solidifies, and so you have to go in there and you have to actually degrease it. So 18 miles of it we've done.
Do we need more education around that?
We have a FOG program. And so through that FOG program, the FOG program of fats, oils, and greases, we have a program that's in place. And so some of the restaurant owners that we talk to, that's part of their education when we come there, and we actually, but it's not them who's the biggest culprit. It's the mom and pops. We do have a large Hispanic population here in Lake Worth Beach, and so they cook with a lot of fats, oils, and greases, and so that's what happens there. So it would be educating the residents as a whole, and we can start doing that. We can send out pamphlets to educate people in Spanish and Creole and English, however we need to communicate this. But it is a problem. It's 18 miles a problem. And so
your sense is that more of that comes from households than from
yes,
commercial.
yes, my sense.
I bought a little house years ago and I had to have the pipes completely replaced because the guy just poured everything down the sink. There was,
We used to do it all the time ourselves.
and yeah, I mean, so education for that.
Sewer main lined, 2.5 miles of sewer main lining. So the lining that we just talked about with the blow up balloon and all this craziness that goes on, we've done 2.5 miles. We just completed another 35,000 feet. It's like 35,000 feet here recently. Water main replaced. That's a huge number. A lot of that was that 2-inch corrugated line that we had here, though. We got mini grants to replace a lot of that. So a lot of that 18 miles of line was a 2-inch corrugated metal pipe, which when it's brand new, it's 2-inch, but after years of service, it actually corrodes and actually gets down to actually nothing, where there's no flow at the house. Stormwater main lining, we've had a mile of that, which is a fairly decent number. Water process, there again is 5 billion gallons in the last in 2 years, and then sewer process is 3 billion gallons. So that's what comes through the master pump station. That's a lot.
How do you see utility violations?
Zero.
Yes,
I did.
Pass that one.
Yeah. I wanted to expand them. I want everybody to absorb that, because that is one thing I am extremely proud of. The employees that work here, we have no violations that I'm aware of from any consent order, DEP, DOH, EPA, nobody. And so that's a big deal. We just actually finished our laboratory audit today as well. Every 2 years, the lab at the water plant gets audited by an outside source. They come in and make sure that we are doing everything per DEP SOP. And so, say that 3 times real quick. But this is the 3rd year or the 6th year in a row, I would say, because they come every 2 years, that we've had no violations. That's a big deal. Losing that license to be able to do our own back keys and do our own testing and sampling at that water facility would cost us hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so these guys take pride in what they do. They're educated in what they do. And so I'm very happy that the laboratory staff is up to snuff and up to par and passed flying colors today with they didn't even have a mark, like a misspelled word. So
That's amazing.
very, very proud of the guys there at work. So
Please send them our thanks and gratitude.
yeah, I will. And that's it for the presentation. I know you guys probably I went a little fast. I know sometimes I get a little long-winded because this is what I do.
I think
And
it's the quality of a utility director.
yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
But this is what I do and I love this.
No.
Yeah. So anybody have any questions?
I
Or
just have one basic question, which is, I have a stormwater drain in and it's, whose responsibility is it? The city doesn't clean up, and, whose responsibility is it? I mean, to me, I go down there once in a while and do the best I can to clear all the stuff out so that when we have it, but that's just, I would love to see some kind of just acknowledgement from folks that have a stormwater drain on their block, help us keep it clean.
yeah,
Because I don't think we have enough people to go to, I don't forget how many,
there's only 2.5 FTEs that is slotted for the stormwater division. So
and we have how many stormwater drains, you said
so,
so,
it is
lots. a lot.
thousands of miles of
Yeah. So that'd be
infrastructure.
something to kind of get people, the citizens to think about is
Yeah.
just because they'll sure call and complain when it backs up.
Yesterday, all of us, Jamie and myself and everybody was out scurrying around yesterday because everybody had looked like the storm may have wanted to turn.
Yeah.
And so everybody was cutting all the limbs and taking all the debris out to the front yard. But what they don't realize is
Yeah.
all the debris flows right down there to the drain and it plugs the drain up and then,
Mhm.
hey, my street's flooding. Well, yeah, of course it is. And by the way, before we close off, I would like to say prayer for everybody that may be impacted on the storm that is heading towards Big Bend area. So it's a Cat 3 from what I've seen. So keep everybody in our prayers.
It's, we've been lucky so far.
Yes.
But Mr. Brown assures me that we're going to be fine.
Yeah. He's
And we all- And anything that Jamie says, we believe.
he's the local prognosticator. He is.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking out right now. It's
Yeah.
like, that looks like a feeder base. Yeah, I told Carmen that there's something different between a tropical breeze and, there's a storm behind.
You know this. Yeah, everybody
It's a-
feels
it's a
this.
different-
Everybody knows this is storm weather right here. Absolutely. Yes.
But we'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much. Oh, Mr. McVoy.
Yep, sorry.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Great to have a lot of detail on, give us some idea. Of course, love to hear the emphasis on sustainability.
Yes.
And that I'm interested that you're already thinking of the education side. One that might get included in that is that I believe it's Florida law that our rates are scaled. So as you use more, the cost goes up per gallon. And that's intentional to encourage people.
Right.
But we might do more of letting people know where those gallon levels are so that
Sure.
you can kind of watch your bill and say, look, if I had to keep it below X, then I'm at this rate and save a little bit.
Yeah.
We could do that. Very important and on the educational, especially the grease one, because that probably generates a fair amount of cost and that's
Yeah.
preventable.
Yeah.
And that's education.
It is. It really falls back
Takes
on
a
that.
little reminding,
Yeah.
run into this at home, do not pour that grease down, wipe it out with a paper towel, put that somewhere at the.
Eggshells are really bad.
Where it really comes into play, where it really comes into play for us is when we do want to line the sewer line itself,
You don't want to.
then we had to go in there with a specialized tool to clean it before we can line it,
Yeah.
which costs us more money. So,
And it's a preventable thing.
Yeah.
To occur.
Yep.
A couple concerns that I hear a lot from residents is flushing, especially up in College Park. We seem to have had an issue with residual chlorine. Don't know, I saw some things on the agenda that may be aimed at looking into that. I hope that will help. But residents there are quite water conscious. They see the hydrants open all day and they go, what can we do to use it to fill people's pools or do something or other? And so any educational stuff you can do as to why we do it in some areas, why we don't. Not now, but just in general, I think would,
I do want to, I will address your comment.
okay.
We have had a residual issue at the north end. When I started talking to the staff, my normal managed by walking around, they told me that when they did years ago, before they started irrigating with raw water over there, they used to use city water over there.
Yeah.
So I am putting city water back in to start using potable water on that north end on the parks because of the residual issue we had. I don't want to see the water go on the ground because that's wasteful. So why don't I go ahead and use it for the parks? And it provides
In the north end, but
Where the golf course
the
and
baseball fields there is where I'm putting them. I mean, and so that is one of the initiatives to increase the residual in that area is why am I putting it on the ground when I can be.
People will appreciate that. The other one I hear sometimes we get some yellow coloration up to, I have no idea why. I always tell my wife, the water here is fine. Get bottled water. The water here is fine. But then sometimes she say, yeah, it's color. And I go, I don't know.
It happens.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens due to flushing or due to a disruption in the system, or if a flushing hydrant had just gone off, we scour the lines. That's what the units help us do.
Right.
And if you scour the line, you actually
Some iron.
disrupt some tuberculi that's on the inner lining of the pipe, and it's rust, and it could come through as a yellowish.
But it's good for
It
your
could be.
situation.
But that's what it happens. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's
It's
what
not a
happens.
big deal in terms of health. It's not great for
Yeah.
comfort. but
We have 33 flushers in the city. That's more than I care to have in a city this size. And so one of the items that I have for the staff is let's really focus on those areas that we know through water age, where these flushers need to go. Let's look at it in science and fact instead of just putting flushers everywhere and hoping they fix the problem. That's not the way to work. So
Cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at a radar of what's going on out there and we're gonna have an interesting evening.
thank you.
Next up, thank you so much. It's so helpful to have this kind of information. I very much appreciate it.
More than welcome.
Okay, now we have the electric utility update by Mr. Liberty.
Follow that.
I can't,
Really?
I got nothing, I got,
What do you give us, Mr.
I got nothing.
Yeah, really.
I got nothing. I actually have,
When the storm starts and the electricity stays on.
yeah, we'll talk about, I'll cover a bunch of items tonight. I'll try to go a little faster. First thing, I want to report on something sad that has taken place. Ed Wamsley, who retired from the city about a year ago, as our, we all knew him as our vegetation person who was looking after the vegetation crews. He sadly passed away on the 19th, and it's sad. But Ed spent about 20 years with us before retiring. Before that, he was 20 years in the Air Force,
Wow.
and we greatly appreciate his service to the country and his service to the city. So it hits all of us hard. I know Jason was able to travel to Tennessee over the weekend and attend the funeral. Thank you, Jason, for doing that. And we all remember Ed fondly.
Thanks.
Okay, some better news. We still remain in the running on the grants. We don't have an answer yet, but we're optimistic. And as Alyssa has explained, others have explained, the longer you're in it, the better off you are. So we have not been knocked out yet. We still continue to track it every day to see.
Sitting at home, could you just, 25 words
Right.
or less? Really? What is this grant? Yeah. Just briefly what that is.
So there are two large grants that came out from the Department of Energy. We have applied for about $62 million in grant funding in what they call Topic Area 1 and Topic Area 2. It covers technology improvements in our system, but also covers a lot of system hardening and reliability improvement projects. So we have the match available, and we're ready to go with a lot of the engineering done and a lot of the groundwork done. So we're hopeful that they choose us.
Do we know when that's going to happen?
Before the end of September, we will have an answer.
The 24th?
That's correct.
Light your candles.
Thank you to staff for all your
Yeah.
hard work, for your diligence. That's a huge number.
I
Thank
give
you.
credit to the folks sitting in the back of the room who did a lot of work, and I know the vice mayor was also involved with that and added some value to that application as well.
Thank you.
Let's hope it works.
I want to put out my monthly suggestion to join us for tours. I know that the vice mayor did join us for a tour last week. I think he spent about 4 hours. I think it was worthwhile. Put myself on the spot. I assume it was worthwhile. Got some good information. So those tours are available. The main yard, power plant, anything else you want to see that we're working on, just let us know. Arrange it through Carmen's office, of course, and we'll get you out there for a tour. Storm. So Storm Idalia, not Vidalia, but Idalia, is active in the Gulf. I can tell you that we are actively watching it, but we're heavily involved with the Florida Municipal Electric Association, which is working with the members. So as of this morning, on this morning's conference call for Storm, they had about 350 line workers committed from 50 different utilities on the public side that were willing to go and support. We are one of those. We will likely tonight, I'll give a call or an email up to FMEA to say we'll release one crew. It looks like all goes well, that storm is not going to affect us. And we want to make at least one of our crews available to help sister city someplace in the state. And we'll see if they need help. We'll know more tomorrow. Landfall, I think, is this morning was predicted to happen about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I think it may be moving a little bit faster. Fortunately, the cone is tight, and we hope it'll move through the state quickly and be on its way. But we're ready to send crews out to help them. And we do have individuals from our line department who are willing to go. So that's good.
Thank you to them. May they not be needed.
Exactly. There are about 7 utilities that were seeking information or assistance this morning, putting out the call that they would likely need help. Like to report also that through FMEA, FMEA has developed a very good relationship with the investor-owned utilities. And something we haven't seen a lot of, but is happening more and more now, is the investor-owned utilities are working much more closely with the municipal utilities in terms of storm response and mutual aid. Typically, they were quite separate, and we see happening now in the state at a higher level of cooperation and the teams working more together. Especially in something like this, where, for example, large portions of the IOU territories are not greatly impacted, so they have people. They've also brought a lot of contractors in themselves to get ready, so they have people available. We did recognize our linemen last Friday afternoon. We had a nice ice cream social at the 1900 building and recognize our linemen. So Florida Lineman Appreciation Day is different than the National Lineman Appreciation Day. So we had an ice cream truck come to the site. It did not qualify towards paying off my debt to the city manager on the ice cream I owe her from a bet we lost, but I still have to follow through on that. 2 ice creams. She has 2 ice creams. So I still have to follow through on that. But the linemen did appreciate the break in the afternoon. And we had everybody in electric utility. We did invite the water side as well. People in the building came over and had ice cream for a couple of hours on Friday afternoon.
And it's really
That was-
amazing how something like that really makes a difference. It really
Yeah.
does. Thank you for doing that.
And it was well received. You're going to hear a couple of presentations tonight. One will be from Ashley in our project management office. She's going to give you a rundown on what we've been doing with the bond money that we've raised. So I think you've all expressed at various times that you'd like to see what projects we're working on. So Ashley will give you a rundown on the bond money and how much we have available, how much has already been committed to various projects. And she does have a very lengthy series of spreadsheets that she can hand out as well. They give a lot more detail project by project if you want to see that level of detail. Following that will be Jason, who's going to talk about, well, what are some of the benefits that we've begun to realize from having undertaken these projects so far? So what are the things that he's beginning to see on the system and how we're able to operate and improve reliability from that? And then last but not least, I'll touch on the PCA. I'll say, Brian, did you give me a copy?
Oh, you know it by heart.
Yeah.
man.
We will talk later in the meeting about the stabilization fund. but the PCA is doing well. There's approximately $3.6 million right now in the PCA that's eligible for movement into a stabilization fund. You previously indicated you wanted to move between $500,000 to $3 million. So we can settle tonight later on in the meeting exactly what you want that to be and what the mechanism would be. But you have these documents in front of you. So if there's nothing else, I'd like to move on and we can go over this in more detail later on. At least you have the data. We'll continue to monitor it. And I think we'll introduce Ashley from our project management office to talk about how we're doing with bonds. And if, as an introduction, if you remember, we had two successful bond issues. One was the Series 2020, and the other was the Series 2022 bond, which raised between them about $84 to $88 million in bond dollars eligible for capital projects that we've been executing. Now, the projects typically have three phases to them. The first phase is engineering of the project. The second phase is typically material procurement. And of course, then lining up the labor that's going to do the construction. And then the third stage is the construction. And we do these projects with a combination. Of course, we do use our own people for bond work, and we bring in contractors as well. So let me turn it over to Ashley to walk you through the presentation.
Can you repeat
Yep.
the numbers again? I'm sorry, about, we had how much in the bonds that we took out?
Between Series 2020 and the Series 2022 bonds that yielded about 84 to 86 million, 84 to 80, 85 million. Yeah, she'll go into those details. Yep.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ashley Sadar, Assistant Project Manager. I'll be speaking to you about our current bond funds.
Can I just interrupt and I just have to again brag on the fact that you started here a year and a half ago as an intern.
Yes,
And here you are at the podium. And this is a success story, right? Like, anybody who's listening, like, you never know when you sign up to intern where that's going to lead. So I just want to point that out again. Every time I see you, my heart just jumps with joy.
thank you. Thank you. So I'll get into the status and completed and currently active projects with our bond funds. These projects are related to the new transmission line, distribution hardening, and fiber communications. So here we have a graph showing the bond funds and the bond expended funds. In FY 2020, we sold at 44.7 million, and FY 2022 was sold at 40.4 million. Total bonds was sold at 85.1 million. Spent was 30.3 million, and committed was 23.5, at a total of 53.9 million. And 31.2 million is the balance of the overall bonds. These upcoming bullet points represent 49 of the distinct projects. So we have our completed projects, which is the 138 kV transmission static line repair, which is breakers and ground upgrades. The main yard GT2, which is the 138 kV failed cable replacement. The underground 3SO4 circuits of FEC Railroad and First Avenue South. The South Loop conversion, which is a voltage conversion hardening at 6th Avenue South, which is a converting from 4 kV to 26 kV. ABB breaker testing and pole replacement, which is the East 08 failure. The main yard control house, which is a hardening and communication, which is a purchase of control house, wiring, control enhancement, and communication upgrades. We also have the 7th Ave North substation, which is a hardening and construction of a new switching station. And the 7th Avenue North circuit, which is a voltage conversion and hardening of all the 7th Avenue North substations and circuits.
Actually, can I just ask that first slide that you showed? Because we don't have a hard copy of that. Could we have that emailed to us?
Yes, I
Thank
can.
you.
The whole presentation.
Yeah, I mean, especially the first slide,
Okay,
because it went by fast.
sorry. Then we get into the projects in progress. We have the new Canal 8 Bay substation, which is a distribution substation project, which includes new transformers, new feeders, and capacitor banks. The new transmission tie line, which is a Canal 138 switching station. The beach tie to Lake Worth Lagoon, and the ICW crossing from Bryant Park to Lake Worth Beach Casino. The French Avenue Circuits Underground, which is the 1 West 13th and the 0704, which is an undergrounding from 26 kV feeders. The 7th Avenue North over I-95, which is an undergrounding of aerial circuits. The new main yard redundant feeder to the Lake Worth Beach North substation, which is the one East 18th, which is a new feeder out of the main yard to the East 05. We have the electric utility city fiber communication, which is the Lake Worth Beach substation, which is a fiber optic communication line from main yard to 1900 to 7th Avenue substation. The 6th Avenue South substation, which is a hardening of the new substation for 6th Avenue. And lastly, the 6th Avenue South circuits, which is a voltage conversion from 4 kV to 26 kV.
Question.
Yes.
The 6th Avenue substation, is that the one where we're rebuilding it on a different site?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so, where are we with that project right now? It's project is in process, so we've already started that.
I'll jump in and provide some more detail. Yes, we have started on a project. We've started on a series of activities. One is engineering is largely complete. Where we can, we've begun to do some voltage conversions and movement of customers from circuit to circuit to set the stage for the ultimate move of that substation. We've also ordered equipment for the new substation. Shortly, within the next month, I believe you will be hearing at a meeting to complete the property purchase so we can move to 706 and 710 South H from the existing substation. So various parts and pieces of this are underway.
Okay, is that the land swap or we're
Yes.
purchasing the property?
That's the land swap.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really, it's great to see you.
Ashley.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Ms. City Manager. Jason Bailey, Assistant Director, System Operations, local resident and customer of Lake Worth Utilities. Ms. Ashley went over where we spent the bond money. Just here to give a real quick high-level overview of some of the projects that we completed. So this on the left-hand side is the Hypoluxo substation. So that was all upgraded relays there for high-speed protection on the transmission line. The right-hand picture is all the switches, current transformers and everything that were replaced at the Hypoluxo station. Wasn't that long ago, all these switches were either welded shut. You couldn't do maintenance there because you were afraid if you opened it, you wouldn't get it closed. Now every switch in that station has been replaced. They all operate as expected. This is to continue on with the 138. You can see the lower right-hand corner. Those are the old switches that we took out. A lot of those were bent, broken, welded shut. If you opened them, you're afraid you wouldn't get them shut. On the left-hand side, you can see that whole row. Those are all brand new switches. All of them operate flawlessly. We exercise all of them at least once a year. So we keep a list. Every time we do maintenance, we'll check that one off if we take an outage on something. But we preventively operate every one of these once a year. Upper right-hand corner, those are the 138 switches on 6th Avenue South and I-95. Those two were, prior to the SHRIP project, switches were inoperable. The one was welded shut, the other one was burnt open. So these are brand new switches now. We used these switches just the other day with the outage for the bridge on 6th Avenue South.
When you say welded, that's unintentional. It's just
That is
like a
correct.
lightning strike or whatever.
No, just the
Just the
contacts no longer line up. Yeah, and it just welds itself shut.
Staff went out and welded.
No, it failed in the closed position.
Failed and closed.
So this one here, so this is part of the static project that she was talking about on the 138. So the left-hand picture, that's a brand new pole and new switches that were cut in to allow us to do maintenance in the main yard. So we did not have a switch there prior on the 138 line. So it was new pole, all new switches, and that allows us to do maintenance on our system. The picture in the center, that was, we brought in a specialized crew. The line was in service while they were doing this work. They were up there on the static line, and that was replacing the static. You can see in the right-hand picture, that pole was one that did get hit by lightning. On top of the pole is shattered. So what they did is when they came across those that were shattered, they'd cut the top of the pole off, re-drill new holes beneath it, and then reattach the static line
Wow. While it was
And-
live.
while it was live. And we did that from Hypoluxo to main yard and from main yard to canal. So we did every transmission pole. So when we speak about lightning, this was a lightning event we had on May 24th of this year. So the right-hand photo, that's the export we got of all the lightning strikes within a 4-mile radius. We took that, we had the GPS coordinates in the incident energy of each strike, and we overlaid that on our service territory. You can see all the lightning strikes that hit our service territory. Not one issue on the transmission line. And we've had a lot of lightning in the last 4 months, and we've had, no issues with the transmission line. Do want to say that with that outage, you see all the lightning strikes that struck our service territory. I roughly use I-95 as the border between east and west. So our hardened area, we've done a lot of work out west. Most of the SHRIP money has been spent west of 95. We had 61,000 customer minutes of interruption during that storm. The unhardened east area, we had 169,000 customer minutes of outages on May 24th. So the hardened area outside did a much better job than inside.
Oh, look at that.
This is the main yard. So upper left-hand corner, that's the new control house. That's where all of our protection now for that main yard substation is in a hardened Cat 5 building. Redundant power supplies, redundant DC backups. You can see the lower picture there. That's all the insulators that we took down. Those were dated 1966. Those were still in service. We replaced the slogan, if it's brown, take it down. So we got rid of all of the old insulators in the main yard. Right-hand side there, you see new disconnect switches going in. Before, we just had 2 separate buses, an east bus and a west bus. So we cut in 4 sets of switches on the bus itself, where we can segment the yard now into 6 separate sections. And that's huge for doing maintenance. This is the canal distribution station and transmission station. So on the left-hand side, that's all the steel structures for the transmission yard. All the steel is here out at the canal substation. Photo on the right, that is either TD 71 or 72. So both of those new 138 to 26 kV power transformers have been ordered. They're on site. I'm just waiting for the station to be done to put those in service. Another upgrade that we did is we replaced our SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition system. So this is a one line of our entire network. And what it uses is high performance graphics. So you want everything to be black and white. Black and white means everything is normal. There's nothing to call your attention. So you'll see on the screen there, there's a red box and a red circle. That was GT2. So that day, GT2 was not normally online. So because it was online and running that day, it's in an abnormal position. That's why it's highlighted red. And you'll see in the right-hand corner, there's a little snippet of a circuit inside a map. That magenta is the same thing, calls out something that's not in its normal configuration. So that was the 0601 circuit, and crews were out there doing a hardening project. That's why it's on single shot, where it does not auto reclose if there's a fault. Another big thing out west was the DAC project. So these are all reclosers. The 3 on the bottom are in the substation. All the other boxes are reclosers that are mounted on poles out in the field. We put them at the midpoint of the circuit, and then the normal opens at the end. We looped them all back to each other. So if we have any issue out there, it's just multiple redundant paths where we can remotely switch around any problem that we have out there. This one goes hand in hand with the DAC project. So our internal crews, so from Lake Worth Road to 10th Avenue North on Davis, they reconducted all that. So all the customers that were on that circuit, they lowered it, pulled new wire in up top, which is a larger capacity wire, and made it an actual feeder. And then they went down Lakewood from Davis to Kirk, and then from Lakewood to Lake Worth Road on Selberg. You can see the black box there in the lower left. That's a new recloser that we put there that's normally closed. And then you see the normal open over on Davis. So we took that whole area and put it on a recloser to provide 1, more protection out there, and then 2, we can swap it over to another feeder remotely if we need to. This is the dispatch in the MillSoft platform. So you can see on here, all the blue is 26. The red is 4 kV. So you can see right around the 6th Avenue area where it's all starting to get blue. That's our internal crews converting stuff to 26 kV. And then they're slowly getting it ready for that new station. Right now we have 27,545 customers. Since the Strip project started, we've converted 3,806 to 26, and we got 12,738 left. This is an interesting slide. It talks about, we took a snapshot of the system in August at, we were running 104 megawatts, the highest load we've seen here. We went down and seen the capacity on all the circuits and what the component is loaded to. So those in orange are components that are loaded above 75% at peak. All of those components are east of 95. The yellow is components above 50%. You'll see in column I can send this to you. So that's the customer served. So you can see right there where it's loaded to, you got, on the right hand, 1,800, 2,500, 2,400, 1,800, 5,071. Those are large circuits that are loaded above 75%. So at peak, if there's a problem, we can't put it on its neighbor. Ideally, we don't want nothing loaded over 50%. So then the ones in yellow are from 50% to 75%. You'll see the last one at the bottom is the 26B 6003. That's the only item from Canal that came up on this list. So since we did our work out west, everything's below 50%. This one hit it right at 51, but once the new station is done, that circuit's designed to be cut in half because we're going from a 4-bay to an 8-bay.
And that's 50% of
The capacity.
the capacity.
So at peak, you don't want anything loaded over 50%. Or if this one has a problem, you can put the neighbor on it without issue.
Okay.
So out west, we've done it.
Yeah.
Now east, we need to replicate that same process here. This is some of the imaging that we do. So we do these yearly. That's that 138 switches out there. They come in, they do infrared scans. That started in the last 3 years. This is just to show you with your naked eye on the left, looks normal. Picture on the right, that's that same image with infrared. And you can see you're about to have a failure. So we've increased these scans to find these issues and correct them before they become a problem.
So is that heat, is that white light heat?
Yes, ma'am. That's a failure point. There's either the connection is corroded, it's a loose connection.
The weld itself.
These because it's different, it's a different material. These actually melt and burn off. And then it creates a power outage.
Yeah.
So another thing I did want to talk about, so this was the bridge project on 6th Avenue South. So beginning in August, we were setting record loads in the daytime. We had to take that transmission line out that goes to the Canal substation, feeds 6,000 customers. Setting record loads in the day, and at night, we remotely switched around all those customers, took the line out, let them do their work overnight without incident for 4 nights in a row.
Really?
And that was just because of the maintenance and the work that's gone on out west.
In the dark.
They did it overnight. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Diaz.
Are we, because we have to have crews out there that manually do this and probably sit around all night. So is that at our expense?
For this, we did all of the switching remotely.
Okay.
The crews did come in for 3 hours on the takeout to do the visible opens and to ground the line, but they didn't stay all night. And actually what they're doing here, so that on the right-hand side, there's a sheet pile. That's what they call that sheet pile. They built a temporary wall to protect our transmission pole because they were digging so deep next to it.
Oh, geez.
So it was, if we didn't put the wall in, they'd have dug that hole, the pole would have toppled over. So the work they were doing was to protect our infrastructure.
But yes, it was at our expense.
Yes. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.
I did have a quick one. I feel like you would know the answer to this. I recently have gotten some good compliments on the outage map. And I'm just curious if that has already translated to less calls, less reports online.
Don't know that we've had it running long enough to
Yes.
see that.
Okay.
I would need to sit down with customer service to kind of go over it. That's a great question.
Yeah.
We can definitely look into that to see if the numbers start trending down.
All right. Yeah, not a huge part. I was just curious because it's been brought up. I've seen it on social media. People have brought it up to me. There's been some, I guess it's really hot. So there's been some small outages here and there. But
That's
people,
great news. If they're
checking
happy
them out.
about it, that's
They're checking
that's
them
good
out,
news. That's
so-
good news.
yeah, okay, cool.
It is true, isn't it, that if there's an outage, you guys know about it, no one has to call. There's been a little bit of debate on social media lately about that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The meters report almost instantaneously.
Yeah.
We do a 60-second delay before we put it on the outage map.
Mhm.
So we can prove some of it before it jumps on there, but yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The difference in the reliability of our electric system in the past few years is remarkable, and thank you to all of you that do that. Now we have,
Madam Mayor.
yeah, oh, sorry, oh, Ms. Blake, I'm sorry.
Before we proceed, Shayla, can we see your face for a minute?
I love that picture of the old
I know.
electric thing.
Great. Is she
You
there?
have to ask Alfonso.
Oh,
Alfonso,
he's working on it.
there she is.
Okay, so you know I'm gonna call you out. Go ahead and make an announcement on what you achieved.
I just finished my master's degree in public administration. I got my diploma.
Congratulations.
Oh, That's such hard work.
Rockstar.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. I
Wow.
appreciate the applause and the congrats from you all.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Boy, I didn't realize that. That's wonderful. All right, great, great. Okay, next up. That was public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda. Do we have any public comments? Madam Clerk?
I have none in here for that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, nothing, I have no blue cards. So let's go to the consent agenda. Well, it's approval, thank you. You're good. I can, yeah. Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
That, do all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. New business resolution 31-2023. Establishment of electric utility rate stabilization fund.
Yes, good evening.
It's on.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor and City Commissioners. This resolution establishes the new special revenue fund for the electric utility rate stabilization fund that we've discussed in previous meetings. And the purpose of this fund will be to maintain rate competitiveness, rate stability by mitigating cost increases that would otherwise be passed along to customers of the electric utility. So as Ed mentioned earlier, we have about 3.6. So we figured that I think the amount that's been talked about in the past was around 2 to 3 million, and we figured we'll start up the fund with $3 million for new approval.
And this is so that, like in years past, the rates were lowered, but it was not sustainable because there was no cushion. This is that cushion.
Right. So this will be, instead of like, if the fuel cost goes up, we will be able to, we won't have to increase the PCA rates.
Perfect.
We'll just replenish the electric fund with these funds. Again, we cannot move these funds without the commission approval.
Great. Okay, let's do a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Did we talk about?
Well,
what
we'll motion was second, then we'll talk. A motion.
Some amendments I want to make.
Well, I'm sorry.
I have some changes I want
Okay,
to.
let's do a motion in a second. We can always do that afterwards. So if we just have a second, and then we can talk. Anybody have a second? And it fails.
I think,
That's fine.
I mean, why not talk about amendments first? We can have a motion, but it might
Because
take.
we're really trying to tighten up the way we've been doing.
Okay.
And it's just.
I'll
Everything can
second
be
to have-
amended.
I'll second to have the
Discussion,
discussion.
right, that's, yeah,
Okay.
it's so simple. Okay, so let's discuss.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The first is, I thought when we had the presentation from Leidos that the recommendation was anywhere between $2 and $4 million. So I don't know why we wouldn't transfer the full amount of the surplus that we've created.
Did we agree on a specific amount or?
No, I thought that's what tonight is doing is to try to
Yes,
set the parameters of the fund.
right. So we can start with 3, which will fall under that range between 2 and 4. And if you, again, you can make that decision today. We can lower that amount or we can increase that amount as long as we don't go beyond the balance that we have. And if you feel by next month, if we come back and we feel like we need to add more, we have that flexibility to the fund.
So I think we've talked about this before, but I need the clarification. Is there an actual fund that exists that we pay our bills out of for our fuel cost and then we deposit our PCA revenues into?
So we have specific GL accounts that are assigned for PCA revenues and PCA expenses. So all the PCA revenue, so they're all segregated. And I think we went over the breakdown of the PCA during the budget process.
Right. So it's my impression that anytime we overcollect, that money should be going into this fund. And then anytime we undercollect, we pull from that fund. So every time we undercollect, you're going to have to come back to commission
Yes.
to pull from that fund.
Yes. And we don't have to.
But you have the money to pay the bills before you come back to us for
Correct.
approval.
Yes. So in this case, let's say, for instance, if we had already transferred it, let's just say we had already transferred it $3 million. And then 2 months from now, Ed comes with his monthly reports and we see that we're in the hole for like 600,000. It's entirely up to you to replenish, to reimburse the electric fund with the 600,000. Or we could just say, let's just wait and see how the fuel costs, how the PCA performs in the upcoming months. We may be recovering from that 600,000. We may not even need to transfer those funds. So we transfer those funds just to make sure that we don't have to increase the rates.
I guess I'm just confused as to why, like, my understanding of the fund was that the fund itself will go up and will go down, and then you set a lower bound and an upper bound. And once the balance hits that upper bound, then you say, well, it's time to lower rates. And then if you start getting too low, then you say, ooh, rates are higher and we're getting to the bottom of our fund. It's time to actually consider raising the rates. So it felt like something that would just be a little bit more structured than just coming back to the commission. And I saw in here it was annually, and we look at these rates every quarter. So tonight, I think we need to change annual to quarterly at a minimum. Because if we're looking at our rates every quarter, we should be looking at this fund every quarter.
Correct. We could do that. We could look at the PCA performance every quarter and then decide whether we need to transfer funds or not. It doesn't have to be on a monthly basis. It's entirely up to.
Right. It needs to be on monthly, but I think it should match what we're doing now with the quarterly. So that we don't, like Mr. Liberty said last year, if we would have waited a full year, we would have really been hot water. So if we're going to be looking at our rates at the gas prices and everything every quarter, I think we should be determining then whether or not we need to transfer money in and out.
So one of the things that we were trying to avoid doing, or staff is suggesting, is not to have automatic ratchets in there that would move money without you having a discussion, because we view it as a policy matter. So we want the commission, whether it's this commission or successive commissions, to be able to look at the PCA and decide for themselves how much money they want to transfer into or out of the PCA. Now, what we would probably recommend is that, for example, if we were running a negative balance, not in the PCA, but a negative balance on the utility side in our fund, that we clear that before the end of the fiscal year, so we don't hurt the fund balance at the end of the year, right?
Sure.
But that would still be subject to you to decide as a policy matter. We wanted to make sure that you would always have that discretion to move the money or not move the money, replenish or not replenish.
Well, because we talk about the PCA being a pass-through cost. So, and I know previous discussions, we've talked about how we wanted to make sure that this fund was used for its intended purpose and that we weren't moving things all around. So this doesn't feel as clean to me as I would like it to be.
Well, if I may, it leaves the ultimate authority to move the money strictly with you, not with staff.
whoever's here after us, who might
Commission.
take when customers overpay on their PCA, which is supposed to be a pass-through cost, it should be there to insulate them the next time against those gas prices. It shouldn't be getting used for other things, because it just feels like I would like a little more protection on this fund so that the next commission that comes in doesn't abuse it, because the whole purpose of this is we are charging you what we pay.
Right.
If we charge you more, we put that aside for you. If you pay too little, we, need to replenish that. The utility shouldn't be recovering if the customers pay too little. It should absolutely be coming from this fund. It should not be coming from anywhere else in the utility.
Well,
And I think that's the policy decision is as we're creating this fund to determine its role, not every, 3 months. What do you want to do with this money?
I agree. And if I could suggest a partial solution, one would be to set a cap on how big you would want the fund to be. In other words, not necessarily a minimum, but say, hey, it should never be above this number. If it gets above this number, commission must act to reduce it. I
Is
think that would
3
be,
million that we're talking about.
well, we
Right.
suggested starting at 3 million. You could say, I don't want, the cap to go above 3, or you could say 3.5 or 3.9. It's just set the
Right.
number tonight, what you want the cap to be.
I think
But the other part of it would be you to then decide for what purposes can it be used? So we call it a rate stabilization fund. Do you intend that to be only for PCA or for anything else that could affect utility rates? That's a policy matter for you to decide tonight. Do you want to limit it to just a PCA adjustment? Or do you want to say, hey, if we have a storm, we could use it for that? I'm not suggesting that you do that. I'm just, as policymakers, just give that some thought to more tightly define the language. If you want to make it specific to PCA, you may want to do that, but that's a policy matter for you.
Yeah, I would like to make it more specific to PCA. I know the last time we talked that if we declare a state of emergency, then we would automatically have access to these funds if we needed to do something there. That was my understanding, was that if a hurricane comes through and we're in a state of emergency, these funds aren't like locked. We have access to them if we need to use them to recover from a.
if you need to, but this resolution is specific to PCA,
For PCA.
nothing else, only for PCA. And there is a threshold. It's an amount 20% of expected annual PCA expense.
Right, I saw that, and I was a little confused by the language, if that meant that we were not, does that mean the fund balance would not exceed 20%, or we would not transfer more?
You would not transfer more, or even the fund would, both, the fund would not even exceed 20%.
There, we wouldn't transfer 20% of the
Right.
PCA because then
Correct,
we
it
would
would
go
exceed.
for that. So we're
Correct.
saying that would be the threshold. I think that was.
And then so going back to what your concern was, if we have excess revenues, we can just I believe you can just lower the rates without having to touch the PCA fund.
Right, that's.
Right.
Some depression.
But that would have to come from Lidos with that recommendation of how much you can lower your rates, et cetera.
So that, I want to see that reflected in there that, I think we should transfer any excess over to this stabilization fund until we hit that threshold. And then we would
Okay.
lower our rates and then, to maintain that. And then similar, I think anytime we, undercharge our customers, I think we absolutely should be pulling from that fund.
Okay.
So I don't know how to make that more clear that that's the intention of this fund and that's what we would like it to do. Unless there's some other reason to not do that. But the intention of the fund is so that we're not pulling from other areas of the utility to cover the cost of this unpredictable cost.
So
And then, yeah.
to help us understand better for a rewrite, then you're suggesting these would be guidelines, but they're not automatic. It's not a situation where staff decides that we reach that threshold and we make a change. It still has to come to
It
you
has to come here. Right.
or your successors to decide what to do, right?
Right. But as soon as we start approaching that max, we need to have a rate conversation.
Correct.
And we have a rate conversation every quarter. So I feel like that's when we look and we're like, okay, we have last quarter, we made an extra $300,000. If we transfer all of that over, we're going to hit our max. So let's only transfer 150 over and like talk about what the new rate should be. And also looking at the forecast. Because if somehow we're like, on the upswing of like natural gas prices, we will definitely want to consider that too, as we're looking at that. But I also think, from what I remember, there was a minimum threshold too. Like you don't want the fund balance to get too low without raising your rates.
That would be a policy matter. Do you want to give us guidance to insert a minimum? We could certainly, if there's a consensus around what a minimum would be, we could certainly write that into the policy.
I think it would, again, come back to us, but if it's, from what I remember with Leidos, it was like, he looked at like a bunch of different other utilities and he looked at our usage and he looked at all of our stuff and his range was like 2 to 4 million. So I'd like it to
Do
be
you want to set a minimum?
noted as, yeah, a rate, yes, a minimum of 2 to 4, and then we have to discuss it. You know, it's not an automatic thing, but it has to come to the commission and will be recommended to either increase rates if it's hits the minimum or decrease rates if it hits the maximum, but that discussion needs to happen in the public, no matter who's sitting up here.
Every discussion.
So
Well, I'm just saying, that's why I want it written in here so that it has to come before whatever commission is sitting up here. We've reached that lower bound. We're a little nervous. Do you guys feel like it's okay to raise rates at this time? Or do you want to like live on the edge? And then if we reach that upper bound, it's time to lower the rates for the customer.
So you're suggesting that we add language to the resolution establishing that minimum and maximum?
Right, in section 3.
Right.
So, right now, the maximum is 20% of the expected annual PCA, which this year I think we're, from what I saw, 17 million, which would make the maximum 3.4 million instead of 4.
so you want to change that, take out the percentage and just change that to 4% to, 4 million?
That's just what I remember from Leidos was 2 to 4.
That was the range.
That was the range. So I just wanted to be consistent.
Change that to a range? Okay.
Yeah. And then in section 4, if we could add some guidance to, because right now it just says the commission has the sole authority to deposit and withdraw funds. That's it, whatever you guys want. So I'd like to add a little bit more guidance there of, I don't know what the language would be.
Well, that would be very micromanaging. That would be, it would seem like it is, as a situation arose, a decision had to be made based on the facts of that circumstance right then.
Right, the intention of, I want this to be clear, whoever's sitting up here, that they know the intention of this fund is,
Well, it's going to say not to go below or above.
right, not to go below or above, but like I was just saying, if we over collect, that should go into the default. This is the way I see it. The default should be, if we over collect, the difference should be getting transferred to that fund at the end of the quarter of the year. If we under collect, the difference should be getting transferred out of the fund. And if we have a good reason to not follow that default, then we get to say, well, oh, look, public, there's a good reason why we're not doing this. So we're going to not do this.
Okay.
If we don't have a good reason, we shouldn't be doing it.
But with the default, we still need to come from the commission.
Right, that's fine, but I just want the language in there so it's very clear to anybody
Okay.
who picks this up at any point that this was the intention of this fund and how it should operate.
Okay, Commissioner Malega was next.
Thank you. Section 4, I do believe that it should say something in regards to, for the sole purpose of offsetting deficits for fuel costs or emergency situations that could arise. I'm more in favor of depositing 3 million into this, using the $606,725 to start a storm fund that we so badly need. I don't know how the rest of the commission feels, but I don't think it's a big chunk of money to start a storm fund, but it's something, and we're actually making the step to do it. Instead of using a dollar amount, I'm big on percentages. I think that would be safer for me because 2 million and 4 million 10 years from now is going to be a whole different world than a percentage. So if we could look back at maybe using a percentage of what that fund should be on the high end versus the low end of yearly PCA cost, I think that's a safer bet, in my opinion, than using a dollar amount. But I do believe that section 4 does need to have some kind of language as to, because right now it just says the city commission shall have the sole authority to deposit funds and withdraw funds. It doesn't say what.
Right.
It's just like, if I decide that we should have a barbecue or a ice social or, it just needs to be more emergency specific.
And PCA
rate specific. Then, and again, rate stabilization fund for the people who are listening. This isn't going to stabilize this is PCA driven, right? We don't want people to think that we can then use this money to turn around and lower rates.
Right.
To be more competitive, or if there's another commission sitting up here, they want to do a political ploy and say, hey, let's use the stabilization rate to lower the rate. No, that's not what this is for. This is for the unforeseen in the future to protect the city. But I really do believe that we need stronger language, and I would love for the rest of the commission to consider starting that storm fund with the 600,000 and change.
We need to hear.
What's 600? Just tell me.
Well, right now we're at 3.606725.
Where,
And this sheet that was passed out.
Does FY 24 assume a $3 million transfer or a 3.6 million or 0?
No, this is just
Just to start.
FY 24, this is just a start. We have that fund separate, so we're not having like we're not assuming a transfer of $3 million because we don't know if we're gonna, because the rates were significantly reduced in June. So, and as you can see, starting July from those reports that were distributed to you, we already had a deficit in July. So I think we're going to continue towards that trend, at least during this coming months.
Well, and for those listening, I went in the backup under the fiscal impact analysis, you have GL account number to be determined because it's going to be a brand new account. This is like a savings account. This is
Yes,
like a
completely new fund, separate new fund,
completely
everything.
new
Yes.
fund. It's not going to be the regular account where every month PCA gets paid in and out of.
Right.
This is going to be a completely separate account.
Right.
Savings account, whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy at the end of the day. But this is a lockbox account, right? Where you have to have 5 signatures, and a Hail Mary full of grace to be able to get into this fund. But I do believe that we should use, again, the percentages on the high and the low.
For the percentages, if I may make a suggestion, we could just say the larger off 20% of 4 million. Or the range,
I was gonna
whichever,
say 10 to 25.
10 to 25.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10 to like 20 on the high end, because I just think that's a high number.
When we looked at, so I was looking at, we're predicted to spend about 17 million in PCA this year. So 25 gets us a little closer to that 4 million mark.
Okay.
And 10 gets us to that.
Okay.
2 million, closer to that 2 million mark.
All right.
We don't have to reach 25%. Like that's not.
Mr. McCoy?
I've heard a lot of helpful things. I think I agree with the idea that although I see it as challenging how to do it, but we have clever lawyers in the room that can probably help us. She can't see me, so I can say that. I carefully position Yannick to run interference, but I do think it is important to write in as much as possible how it works. And I like the idea that obviously I think everybody agrees that the lockbox takes 5 signatures. But I think the triggering of when you look at it, that's automatic. You look at it every, whatever it is, 3 months, every quarterly. We look at it. And then if you go above a certain amount, it triggers that, hey, we get a report from the utility that says, hey, you've gone up, exceeded that thing. Or if you go low, I wasn't clear out of the discussion what we had for the low threshold. I heard the number 2 million coming in. That seems a little high. I don't see any reason why you would want to just let 2 million sit in there. The whole purpose of the buffer fund is, when you need it, you move it out. Don't need it, you move some in. But unless we want to think of that 2 million as well, that's really kind of a hurricane fund, which I think we're saying, I think we don't want to do that. So I would make the lower threshold a little lower. And I'm fine with the idea of, we're currently at about 3.6 excess, which I assume is, I eyeballed it, I assume that's pretty much this. We've been over collecting for a while, so we've got some excess. So let's throw 3 into the purely rate stabilization. I'm fine with the other 6. It's not really PCA, but we also don't have a hurricane fund, so I'm okay with, go ahead and put a piece in.
Mr. McCoy, please watch your language.
Storm emergency fund, if you like. I'm fine with that. I would make the lower threshold of when we trigger, hey, it's time to have a rate discussion, you have to have a rate discussion, I'd make that a little lower. So
We can.
For the
spend-
record, we all should agree.
$2 million isn't frozen there. We could use this $2 million and then build it back up. I mean, that's the aspirational 2 to 4. So, I mean, I don't think anyone sitting here thinks that, oh, we have $2 million, but we're not allowed to talk to it because to spend it, because that would bring it below our thing. I think.
But we have to be a little careful of the language that.
Well,
you know,
I have a
can
feeling that
you-
we're gonna be asking a little bit of a rewrite on this.
What's that?
I would just suggest looking at the difference column here to see, I know it was very extreme, what we went through, but we haven't seen things like that in over a decade. That kind of jump, I understand that that's extreme, but in back to back to back months, we lost 1 million, we lost 800, we lost 1.7 million, we lost 1.5 million. 2 months later, we lost another 1 million. So I think allowing it to go below the 2 million
Yeah.
is not going to provide enough buffer for when we see that unexpected jump, which is why I wouldn't want it to go lower than that 10%
I,
slash 2 million.
How do you spend below 10 million? What's what allows us to use that?
Because
Whatever
the rates have been going up. We are under collecting from our customers and we're spending down that $3 million balance. Once we spent down 1 million, we're like, we've really been under collecting for our customers.
Right.
Let's not wait till we get to 0 to start truing that up.
I stand corrected by my wise
I'll,
comment.
I'll I'll offer one more point there that by the time we get all these numbers, remember that by the time we see all of the PCA revenues posted into Naviline and then produce the reports, get them on the agenda for meetings, some time has passed. And the same thing with the PCA expense. The PCA expenses tend to come in pretty quick, but there's always a lag between the PCA revenue and the PCA expense. So we incur the expense now, and we collect that through meter reads that are going to take place over 21 or 22 cycles, and then with a 30 to 42 day payment period, right? So there's quite a lag there. So there's always going to be some porpoising of these numbers behind or ahead of the curve.
okay, I like that purpose. Mr. Diaz.
I think Commissioner Stokes covered it, but I was going to point that out too. 2 million as a minimum. It's not like that's just a trigger to talk about it. And then I'm looking at, July and August and like the 1.78 hit. And then the next month is the 1.5 hit. And I just, dread that situation ever coming up again. I know it's really rare, but it's something we need to be prepared for. I appreciate the mention of the storm fund. Later on today, we're going to talk about stormwater because these are all things that including PCA and including fuel costs, as long as we're using fossil fuels for energy. I want to move away from this perception of this is an emergency. These are emergency situations that don't usually happen. This is starting to become things that we know are just going to happen. So it's not so much an emergency as much as we're just preparing and planning for something for the inevitable. And so, the 2 million minimum, I think is really comfortable, and for sure we should be revisiting this to see what we can do.
Okay, so it sounds like we have some adjustments to the language that we are looking for. Oh, my goodness, you gotta see, that's why they have to go up here. Ms. Davis.
Yes, so you were segueing into a question I was going to have, just to make sure we captured what you have discussed. So what I see is we're going to revise the resolution and the policy to be an amount with a range of 2 million to 4 million. That seems to be the consensus.
Percentages.
Oh, so it will be a percentage.
I personally like Yannick's suggestion where you had an amount 2 and 4, or
The grade off.
Yeah, I like that.
The
better.
grade off
Okay.
and
I like a number.
for the percentage.
it's helpful to have that number that you're looking at.
Right.
And, if it goes up over 10 years, well, then they can change it to
Right.
2 million point 2 or 4 million point.
Okay.
Okay, good. I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure that we're
And
on
in
the same
section
page.
4,
In section 4, that's right. So we will continue out that thought about what to do, to do what. So the purpose of this policy.
right,
And I did hear also write in how it works. So I guess based on this threshold, I think Vice Mayor, you mentioned that to clarify in here how the threshold works. If the rates go high and we need to make up for the deficit, we can tap into the
Yeah, if we've
fund,
under collected, like
right.
Commissioner Stokes said, then we can reach out to this fund.
Right.
I think the pieces are every quarterly, it always comes up as a discussion. That's locked in.
Mhm.
If you hit either threshold, high or low, we need some sort of a report automatically from the utility that says we've done that and you really need to think about rates.
Mhm.
And what we do, I don't know if we need further language of what to do once you know that.
Well, I think
And also the use.
if you, at the end of the quarter, if you under collected $500,000, then we might want to transfer $500,000 to cover that.
Do we want to write that in? Or do we
I think
let
that
people figure
Should
that
be
out?
a suggestion in here, like that it needs to be clear what the intent is. It is to protect
Stabilize.
Yeah.
our customers from unnecessary rate increases, and it's also to protect the rest of the utility from
Mhm.
running a deficit because our PCA is off.
And that might be, for section 4, I think.
Mr. Dan, I see your light. is on.
Yeah, that might, I feel like we maybe don't have to overthink it. Like,
Yeah.
we certainly need these goalposts. And I think, with section 4 at the end, it's for the sole purposes of
Right.
exactly what you said.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah, rate stabilization or.
Mhm.
emergency. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we want to?
You got a little
Mr.
bit
Mr.
more.
Legge?
So
I
we,
just, once this is done and we've voted on it, and it's in place, I would like to see this on the front page of the citizen-owned utility page, so residents and business owners can see what that balance is and what we've established. Like we need to make sure that everybody knows that as a commission, we're looking forward. We've created this fund. Here's what the balance is now. We're gonna revisit it every quarter, and then if there's changes every quarter, update that website so the residents can know. And maybe put it, once we solidify this, maybe put it in the newsletter. To protect you from the future of what we've been through, just a little blurb, here's what we've done we've created this rate stabilization fund.
I have a quick question. So, and this has happened last year on those reports. So let's say we come back next month and we have a deficit of about 1.5 million. I'm just throwing out a number here. Now, this resolution, the amount is going to change.
No,
Because the access is no longer going to be 3. Right now, we're at 3.6, but we come back and we get hit by 700,000. We no longer have 3 million to transfer. Right now, we have $2 million to transfer.
After that.
that amount, I guess.
The goalposts still stay the same though.
Yeah, as far as establishing the fund, et cetera. Okay, so just want to let you know that,
Those are aspirational.
we come back, that number might change.
Mr. Diaz, was that your question?
Well, just quickly, to add to that, I think not just our newsletter, and Ed and I have talked about this in the past and other things. I think this is something that we should reach out to the press too. I know I've had like certain TV stations that have reached out and asked about this okay, all right, there we go. Question answered.
Ms. Stokes?
I think Chris is next. Mr. Report.
I think I like the idea of putting the policy on our website. And the whole idea on there that we went through an unusual bump. They could come back, and this is what we're doing to try to mitigate that a bit. I do think it's important. It adds to the importance that we spell out how it can be used. So it's not just a slush fund, that it has some.
Rate stabilization. Yeah.
I'm a little concerned that we kind of slide in, I don't know if we put it in formally in the language, but we slide in emergency, rate stabilization or emergency. That's kind of a little bit leaves the door very open. Well, one person's emergency is not the next.
But it would be a commission decision.
So do we put electric utility emergency?
Yes.
Electric utility
And can it be
emergency?
used for
Don't say it
anything,
again.
storm emergencies or whatever? Or do we want it protected just for
This
fuel rates.
This is
Okay.
This is PCA.
If
I
we're
would-
starting a storm fund,
My inclination is to keep it separate, so I would not
Yeah.
put the emergency language. We'll deal with the emergency if it happens.
Are we also getting a consensus to start to, we'll come with to establish a storm fund as well with whatever amount is in excess of 3 million or whatever.
Okay, so there's gonna be a little bit of language, Ms. Stokes.
I just wanted to add to that, it's not just, I want to make sure that the language is specific enough, but not too wordy. So
Mm.
I think just to say that, we're establishing it to be used for rate stabilization, it isn't clear, but, something I think the vice mayor may have said something to the effect of like or Commissioner Malega, to offset the effects of under or over collection. I don't know if there's something of the PCA revenues, or I don't know if there's something that we can just succinctly, it's to help offset the effects, either direction, over or under.
Makes sense. All right, do you want to withdraw the motion to approve?
Withdrawing motion to approve. Changing the motion to pending, motion to approve with
The changes,
changes to be brought forward for next reading.
right, we'll
Okay.
have a vote on it then and withdraw your second?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, how do we do on time on that one?
You had about 3 minutes to spare.
Okay, it's now 7:45 and we are on
Have
the,
a potty break?
we could have a potty break.
Thank you.
We're on the first item of new business at 7:40. Some folks have come into the room, and if you want to make a public comment on something on an agenda item, just if you don't know, you need to get a blue card and just pass it up to the city manager. I don't know if you want to speak or not, but just, I hate to pass over you if you were, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break.
This.
Okay, let's. I've been telling. Patience. Well, adapt or die. That's from the movie Moneyball. It's a good listen. It's a good lesson for life. That's a phrase from Moneyball, that great movie. All right, we're back on and we are now on the second item of our new business. And we're not on yet because we're just missing somebody. Okay, next up is item B of new business, agreement with the Transportation Management Services, Inc. for the transportation of contract and or mutual aid crews during emergency situations. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve. Do I have a second? For discussion or whatever, second, okay. Good evening.
Good evening, Valentina Sosneda, Assistant Finance Director, Purchasing.
People,
I'm sorry, who was the second? I apologize, Valentina.
who was this? Say it again, Valentina. Go ahead.
So this is our second agreement. This is a backup agreement for the transportation services that happen in emergencies. So these are basically, we brought to you, I think last month, the primary agreement. This is a secondary just as a backup.
So if the other one doesn't work.
Yes, well, we hope that we're not going to need them, so.
Okay, all right. So do I have we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously.
Very
Next
top-
up.
very topical for today.
Yeah. Next up, resolution 32-2023-2020, non-ad valorem revenue bond reallocation.
Sam Hetty, Utility Director, Lake Worth
Good night,
Beach.
everyone.
The electric people.
The electric people have left the building. Got some water people.
We can have some fun now.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. The party begins.
Well, actually, Mr. Liberty's still.
I believe we have some residents from South Palm Park and
We
they're
do.
very happy to hear that this is reallocation of funding to fund the South Palm Park 18th Avenue South pump station for the stormwater.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
To all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All in favor unanimously. Next up, resolution 33-2023 for fiscal year 20. No, there's more coming up. There's more coming up. Budget amendment for sub-regional wastewater payment to Palm Beach County Water Utilities Department. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, well, Mr. Sam?
We don't have a lot of choice in that.
Right,
Yeah, I mean,
We did, there was work done on the Palm Beach County system, which we obviously flow into. We collect dollars from the 7 sub-regional partners. It took an extremely long amount of time, though, to get the invoices from Palm Beach County, believe it or not, for $848,000. I would be
really?
sitting here at your door. But it took almost 18 months to get the invoices from Palm Beach County. We've had this money sitting here all along. And so now that we've lit a fire, they've finally sent us the invoice and we have to pay them.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Next up, authorization to purchase
Explain.
city's water meters from Badger Meter for inventory for fiscal year 2024 in the amount not to exceed $125,000. Do I have a motion?
Well, Madam Mayor, I have to recuse myself because I'm from Wisconsin and these are Badger water.
I know, I know.
Something current.
Do I have
This
a
is a,
second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next up, authorize water meter encoders purchase with the Avanti Company for the city's water utility department. Do I have a motion?
motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You are brilliant, Mr. Utilities. You just. Work order number 08 with Global Tech Inc. for reverse osmosis water treatment plant membrane replacement project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Do we need any explanation? All in favor?
It is pretty typical. You mentioned backup that 10 years is sort of when you start.
7 to 10. Yeah, and these have gone 12
Right.
and
So-
very,
All in favor?
Time to go.
Yep.
Aye.
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 That passes unanimously. Item H. Work order number 9, work order number 9 with the Global Tech for water treatment plant hardening project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much. Up next is item I. It is work order number 10 with Global Tech Inc. We like them. For design build services for radio system upgrade phase 2 lift stations project. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Number 8, task order number 2 with Kimley Horn and Associates Inc. for nitrification action plan phase 2 project. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, I wouldn't mind a little explanation on it after we have the motion.
this goes back to what we were talking about. This study in plan allows us to understand where this water age is happening in our system. Allows us to get on top of any nitrification that may be happening in the system. It's where these flushing units come into play. It's where the using the potable water on the north end to keep that residual high. There has been no issues in the past, but it gives me the intellectual knowledge to know what's going on in my system. So
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Agreement with Close Construction Services for South Palm Park Stormwater Pump Station Project. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have public comment on this one. Is there any, do we need any explanation of this? Yeah, 18th Avenue North, South. Well, you have you are Megan? Okay, you can come on up.
Right here.
Yep. You have what, 3, 2?
So I wrote something because I just want to be short.
Minute, Madam Mayor.
So
Okay,
Mayman.
I'm Megan
Uh,
Cutchins. I live
address.
on 18th Avenue South,
what's the address?
87 18th Avenue South.
Thank you.
Weird address. So I moved there recently. I love the city and you guys do all a great job. I'm here tonight because Georgia sent me a letter and I have a busy day. I manage the bridges in West Delray, so I get what you guys have to deal with. But I'm here because it's definitely a problem. When it rains heavy, there's like trash cans floating down the street. And I'm the type of person that I focus all on work and then I come home and I'm like, and then I never do anything about it. So it's definitely a problem. I know that if it's not addressed soon, it's just kind of a matter of time. I know that everybody's house is going to flood on the street. And I know you guys are taking a lot of proactive approaches to building hurricane fund. But what I'm saying is that this is something that is a known problem and it can be fixed, that I hope you guys really consider it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Georgia, your wait has ended. We have been emailing back and forth for weeks.
I emailed her today.
And here you are.
For taking, bringing this to your attention, and I hope you fix it. It's a problem. We see garbage cans floating down the
State your
street.
name and address.
Address.
Georgia Clemetsmo, 75 18th Avenue South, Lake Worth Beach. My neighbor's been there 29 years and she said it has been going on all that time. And you were going to fix it and then the prices went up. So I just hope you get it done. We're praying.
This is tonight, if we approve this, we're good.
Okay, thank you. You won't
Yeah.
hear from me again.
And neither one of us is lugging sandbags.
I can't carry those.
I can't carry, so that's part of our conversation.
Thank God I have nice neighbors who help out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Diaz.
Yeah, we have the money for this. I'm expecting it to pass, but I do kind of want to use this project as a talking point. This has been a long time coming for, as they correctly point out, this is a problem that we know is happening. It's not a tomorrow problem. It doesn't have to rain. It doesn't have to be a name storm. King high tide is all it takes. And I really appreciate the Chenmore, the engineering report that we got. Thank you for that. And it really confirmed things that were kind of like a hunch of mine. And we know it's not even a hunch, it's just common knowledge at this point. And that's something that I've brought up in the past in recent meetings, especially in budget, which is things like stormwater. We talk about our storm fund, we're talking about PCA. We're finally moving away from this notion that these are emergencies, this is just preparedness. And it's not a problem in the Lake Worth, so I'm not picking on us, but nationwide it's a problem that stormwater is, I'm not going to say ignored, but it's often, I'm sure Sam can comment, it's usually not the priority when it comes to what do we got to work on infrastructure, because it's pretty mostly passive. A lot of our stormwater can be gravity fed or whatever, and so it's something that you build and you kind of just like expect it to work for decades and you don't have to touch it. But that's clearly not the case. And what we're seeing with this project and like this report from Chenmore, they pointed out something that I think is really important for us to take away, and that is this price difference. It's easy to pin price differences on cost of supplies, and that's a part of it. But something that really stood out to me from his report is, it's also, these projects are really complicated, they're small, and it's a lot of money for us, but it's not a lot of money for an engineering firm. And often these projects are not popular. If you're going to go for bids, you want the big, miles long gravity fed system, because that is far bigger return. You're going to make more money off of those projects if you're an engineering firm. These complex ones, you're not going to have as much profit, if you will, for your firm. And that's why, the cost of these projects are getting so expensive. That's a big part of it. And they're getting expensive because of, it's work that needs to be done, but it's not work that people want to do. And the problem is that this is one pump station at the end of one street, and we got to protect these neighbors. But think about all the other streets that go into the lagoon that are going to deal with this same situation. We already have on schedule South 9th Street is another one that floods and needs work, but we're going to have to pay for that as well. So I guess what I am getting at is I wanted to use this project kind of as a reminder and as a talking point. Hopefully, maybe there's some consensus to further this discussion that, like storm, like PCA, we really need to seriously look at setting some money aside for stormwater management, because these projects are small but tremendously expensive, and they're going to add up very quickly. And when South 9th comes up, I don't want to have to deal with this problem again where we have to dip into our savings. So I want to at least make the moves to do that and set that money aside so that Sam and his utility can do everything that needs to be done. And also, the second ask is to have a reminder that this pump is going to buy us time, and it's going to help the streets, and especially South 9th is another one. But I also want to caution, it's not a forever fix. So another thing that really needs to be done, and I have had very short preliminary conversations with like Aaron Cedar. Luckily, we have some knowledgeable people on staff regarding this issue, but I think something that we should look at, I know this is a utility meeting, but something that really is a companion to this kind of work in shoreline resilience is looking at our planning policy. Specifically, what can we do to make sure that where there's a seawall, it gets raised up to where it needs to be. How do we incentivize the private owners of these seawalls to do that project? Because if the wall looks like this, it's not helping us. And so we need to get to a better place where we can protect these houses with not just the pump stations, but fortification, shoreline softening, whatever is needed in those specific areas. So that's another conversation that I think, if there's agreement that we can kick it off, maybe Carmen and I with William and Aaron, because there's some really interesting land use law issues with places like Broward. I want to say Pompano, maybe they have policy where you're going to rebuild your seawall. It has to be, I forget what it is, X number of feet before mean high tide line. And preliminary case law that's out there that could be a takings on our part, for example. So there's things, it's a really interesting problem that needs to be resolved. And I think we have people here that can really tackle this in an innovative way that, like so many of our other policies, will be copied and pasted by other communities, because I don't think there are really, I mean, I've looked into it, there aren't really a whole lot of communities that take this problem as seriously as they should. And, we're here listening to neighbors on South 18th Street, and this stuff is knocking on their door. I mean, I want to get to a day where we don't have to give them 35-pound sandbags to pile up in front of their garage doors. And we need to do that sooner. So, hopefully if we can have that conversation, that's great. And the other question maybe for Sam is, I know this is a tough thing to ask for contractors, but can we do better than the 54 weeks? Because that puts us next year through another storm season, and the sooner the better.
I believe the Sam Hetty, City of Lake Worth Beach Utility Director, I believe the contractors try to give themselves a buffer.
Yeah.
Because if not, then I would be holding them to 6 months down the road and they're not able to be done. They're like, I'd be over there strangling them. But so they give themselves a buffer out there. So
Is there an incentive for them to finish early?
They can move on to the next project.
that could be a conversation that we have, but I haven't.
Well, they
I
do
like
know,
that conversation. That's where I came from. So
Yeah. And they do know that South 9th is on the schedule. So if they
yeah, I
Good.
can. I'm always using the and there's always an ask and a tell.
Dangle that
Always,
carrot.
yeah,
All right.
always.
Commissioner Maleka.
We actually looked at this project too, to try to do it in-house. Just to see if there was, if it was plausible. It really is a little more technical than the guys and gals that I have, and I didn't want to take their time away
Right.
from the other
I
things
have
as
other
well.
things to
So,
do. Yeah.
right. So,
Okay.
anyways.
I think Commissioner Maleka was next.
I did, that was my concern, Director Hetty, is that the work will be substantially completed within 270 days from the date of the contract. And I just want the residents to be very well aware, because here we are approving it. And Article 3.1 says within 270 days. So
Yes,
just
9
so the
months.
residents are clear, this isn't only for staff, that yes, we're approving it. But again, like Commissioner Diaz just said, don't expect it to be done in 16 weeks.
Be
patient,
Georgia.
Be patient.
Yeah, really, what's over here, right?
So that was my big concern, is that they were just making sure that the residents know, the ones who are directly affected by this, that, there's that messaging, right? Like, yes, it's gonna go back and they're gonna hear, yeah, we got the funding, and then 3 months from now,
Where is it?
yes, his phone's blowing up and the mayor, what? Fixed. So just if we can make sure that we're communicating that to all the residents that are impacted, that they have realistic expectations. of
You
when it's
folks
gonna
can
be
take
done.
that back to Mr. Richter and everybody else that's involved in this. Mr. McCoy?
Yeah, I appreciate, I think that's helpful that we, engineering projects have to be designed, they're gonna be spec'd out, they're gonna be built. It's not minor. I want to thank Commissioner Diaz for taking a moment to draw our attention to the bigger issue, and a couple of things that were mentioned. One, it's great that you put a pump in one location, you put a wall in one location as far as height. Water doesn't really pay too much attention to that. It looks for the low spot and it'll come in and it'll go right around. So it's one of the reasons why a number of years back, something that drew national attention and even some international attention, the regional climate compact where the Palm Beach County, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, and I believe Monroe also all said, under a lot of guidance from some of the people at the Water Management District, these are issues that you can't deal with piecemeal. You have to approach it at a regional level. And they did a lot to raise awareness on it. We're lucky we're a little higher here, but you know, what perhaps didn't come out as explicitly in Commissioner Jess's comments is the driving force is sea level rise.
Right.
Everybody designs thing on the assumption that the water goes out to zero, except zero is moving. Just like you design for 100-year storm. Well, we're seeing that 100-year storms keep coming every couple of years. And the insurers are very aware of it. I just read something again about the reinsurers are very concerned because the whole mechanism is based on past performance. So one of the reasons people sometimes, you know, may wonder a little bit, why do I push as hard as I do on our electric utility? Well, because fossil fuel burning is where a lot of the problem is coming from. That's why we have climate change and sea level rise. So we need to be both working on resiliency, adapting to the changing situation, but we also need to be throughout the world doing our part to attack the fundamental problem, which is fossil fuel burning. So appreciate that we're seeing the bigger picture.
Madam Clerk, were there any public comments on this issue?
I have 4, Madam Mayor.
Do you mind if we have them? Let's read them. Yeah.
Okay, the first one is from Carly Casano at 70 18th Avenue South. I support the agreement with Close Construction Services for South Palm Park Stormwater Pump Station project on 18th Avenue South. We desperately need this to prevent the constant flooding on the street and in our driveways. This is a danger to us, our pets, and our property. Thank you very much for bringing this up. The second is, and I apologize if I mispronounce the name, Atesh Isladoc at 70 18th Avenue South. I support item K. We moved to 70 18th Avenue South with much excitement. It's a beautiful street with great people all around, but we get scared every time it rains for more than an hour. Just an hour of rain and the water is submerging the wheels of our cars and heading to our front door. Occasionally, the street is so flooded that we can't even drive through it, which makes the idea of evacuating during an emergency very frightening. We have heard our neighbors discuss the solution to this and hope the city can hear the concerned voices and know it's in everyone's best interest to build this stormwater pump on our street. Thank you. The third comment is from Greg Richter at 1202 South Palmway. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Madam Mayor and City Commissioners. I am writing you tonight asking for your support for the stormwater pump out on South 18th Street. At the very first meeting after 4 of you were elected, I came before all of you and asked that we go forward with this project when there was an opportunity for a grant to help fund this project, which you all supported. When Commissioner Diaz joined the commission, he too has been a supporter of this project. I'm asking tonight, let's get this project going on this very important project. We continue to have flooding, with just about every heavy rainfall. Greatly appreciate that several of you have been down to see for yourselves. Thank you, Greg Richter, President, South Palm Park Neighborhood Association. And the final comment I have is from Barbara Sweat, 66 18th Avenue South. Thank you for reading my comments regarding the South Palm Park Stormwater Project. I have lived at this location for 29 years. Our street has been flooding for years and many homes have been inundated more than once. My husband has had meetings in the past with Lake Worth Utilities and has brought photos and discs of photos of the flood history on our street. I would like to express that I am hoping the stormwater pump station project can be started without further delays and am trusting the engineers for the best possible solution that will help. I also have concerns with the existing pipe and its maintenance. I have seen my husband pull branches, cowboy boots, garage can lids, etc., away from the drain himself when things float down during a heavy rain. Who knows what could be in there causing a blockage of some kind? There is no grate to keep things out and never any maintenance to ensure a clear flow. A larger drain pipe or a backup pipe that is higher to handle the amount of water that is coming down 18th Avenue South would be recommended. We are all concerned for our property and our property values. The homes on the intercoastal of our street are owned by people out of state who are seasonal and not here at this time. Also, several of the homes on our street are rentals or short-term rentals. So the property owners are not aware that this meeting is happening or that they have a place to voice their concerns. Thank you. Thank you, Georgia. Samo, I apologize, our block captain, for letting us know and working hard for 18th Avenue South to have a voice. Thank you. That is all the comments I have.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let's hope your patience paid off. Now we have one more. A task order number 3 with Holtz Consulting Engineers, Inc. for services during construction for the South Palm Park Sea Level Rise Mitigation Stormwater Pump Station Project for a total of $128,845.
During construction, we want to make sure this is done correct. And so Holtz Engineering is there to oversee the construction that's going on with close construction.
Great. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any public comments, Madam Clerk?
No, I have no more comments on anything.
Okay, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, really. And thanks for that informative thing up front. That was really helpful.
Yeah,
I
that
want to
was
say
great.
thank you very much. I want to do some videos with like that so that people can.
Yeah,
look up on the
absolutely.
website. Motion to adjourn the radio. You don't get it. Takes
$300. No, I got it hidden away.
Did I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor. Good night.
Aye.
Hey, good night.